They captured one piece, just one, a single move on a board that spans dimensions they cannot even perceive. And they lost their minds. They stood up from the table, knocked over chairs, grabbed their phones, and started telling everyone who would listen that they finally got you, that you were finished, that the giant had fallen and they were the ones who pushed. They popped champagne bottles. They took screenshots. They called their friends, their family, anyone who shared their desperate need to see you fail. They crafted the narrative, polished it, packaged it, and sold it to themselves and the world as their greatest victory. But here is what they forgot. Here is what their celebration-drunk minds could not comprehend in their rush to dance on what they thought was your grave. Sacrificing a piece is not losing. It is positioning. And while they were busy throwing their premature victory party, while they were intoxicated on their tiny win, while they were broadcasting your supposed defeat to anyone with ears, you were still sitting there quiet, watching, calculating, moving pieces into positions so advanced, so sophisticated, so devastatingly precise, that they would need a decade of study to even understand what you were doing. They thought the game was over. The game had not even started. Let me tell you something about power that they will never understand. There are two types of players in this world, and the difference between them is not talent or resources or luck. It is understanding. There are players who need immediate gratification, who play for the quick win, the instant validation, the dopamine rush of seeing their opponent stumble right now. This second, in this moment, they want the knockout in round one. They want blood on the first punch. They want victory they can photograph, post, and build their fragile sense of self around. These are the players who celebrate capturing pawns. And then there are players like you, players who understand that real power does not announce itself. Real strategy does not need applause. Real victory is so quiet, so subtle, so completely devastating that by the time anyone realizes what happened, it has already been over for months. You are not playing their game. You are not even playing the same sport. They are out here jumping pieces, making noise with every move, thinking that activity equals progress, that motion equals momentum. But you have been playing a game so layered, so patient, so sophisticated that linguists have not invented words for it yet. Here is what they saw when they thought they destroyed you. They saw you fall. They saw you struggle. They witnessed that moment of apparent weakness, that crack in the armor, that stumble that made you look human for just a second. And in that moment, their small minds did what small minds always do. They extrapolated from insufficient data. They assumed from incomplete information. They projected their own fragility onto you and decided that one stumble meant complete collapse, that one setback meant total defeat, that one visible wound meant you were bleeding out. But they forgot something crucial. You do not stumble by accident. You stumble by design. That weakness they exploited. You left it there like a trail of breadcrumbs. That vulnerability they attacked. You positioned it specifically for them to find. That piece they captured with such pride, such arrogance, such certainty that they had won. You placed it there knowing they would not be able to resist, because you have been studying them far longer than they realize. You know how they think. You know what tempts them. You know that their ego is so starving, so desperate, so hungry for any taste of victory that they would lunge at the first opportunity without checking what it might cost them down the line. And they did. They lunged. They grabbed. They swallowed the bait whole, and now the hook is so deep inside them that they cannot even feel it yet. They will. Oh, they will. But not now. not while they are still celebrating, not while they are still drunk on their supposed victory. The pain comes later, when they realize what they actually grabbed, what they actually committed to, what they actually set in motion when they took what you offered. Let me talk to you about patience for a moment, because this is where most people fail. This is where ordinary minds break and reveal their true nature. Patience is not passive. That is the lie they tell themselves to feel better about their impulsiveness. Patience is not sitting around waiting for something magical to happen. Patience is active restraint. It is choosing not to move when every fiber of your being wants to strike. It is watching them celebrate your supposed defeat and keeping your face completely neutral, completely still, completely unreadable. Do you know how much strength that takes? To watch people who hurt you dance on what they think is your grave. To see them toast to your downfall while you sit there in silence, knowing what is coming, knowing what they cannot see, knowing that their celebration is actually the first act of their own tragedy. To feel the rage burning hot in your chest, the anger scorching your throat, and to convert it into fuel instead of fire. That is not weakness. That is mastery. That is the difference between a street fighter and a general. The street fighter swings at the first sign of disrespect. Their ego cannot tolerate a moment of perceived defeat, so they react, they lash out, they waste energy on battles that do not matter. The general watches, the general waits. The general positions armies while the enemy exhausts themselves celebrating battles that mean nothing in the context of the actual war. You are the general. And they are burning through their ammunition, shooting at shadows, at illusions, at targets you painted on walls, while you move the actual valuable pieces to safety. Here is what is beautiful about their premature celebration. They showed you everything. In their arrogance, in their need to perform their victory, in their desperate rush to tell the world about your defeat. They revealed their entire playbook. They showed you who their allies really are. Not who they claim to be their allies, but who actually shows up when they smell blood in the water. They showed you what they truly think of you, beyond the polite smiles and professional courtesy. They exposed the depths of their resentment, their envy, their fear dressed up as triumph. They gave you intelligence they should have protected with their lives, and you collected every single piece, every name they mentioned, every person who joined their celebration, every snake who smiled at your suffering, every coward who only showed their colors when they thought you were too wounded to remember, too defeated to care, too broken to catalog. You recorded them all, not for revenge, not for retaliation, for positioning. Because when you rise, and we both know you are going to rise, you need to know exactly who deserves access to the kingdom you are building, and who should be left outside the walls. They just saved you years of trying to figure out who your real ones are. They volunteered that information enthusiastically while they were busy laughing. Thank them silently. Remember every face and move accordingly. Now let me discuss their fundamental error in calculation. They measured your power by what they could see. They assessed your strength based on external circumstances. They looked at your position, your resources, your current situation, and they ran their calculations. Based on their math, you were finished. Based on their logic, you had nothing left. Based on their understanding of how the world works, you should stay down. But they cannot measure what lives inside you. They cannot quantify the fire that refuses to die no matter how much water they pour on it. They cannot calculate the will that bends under pressure, but never breaks, that absorbs every impact and converts it into something harder, something stronger, something sharper. They cannot factor in the thing that wakes you up at 4 in the morning with clarity they will never possess. They cannot account for the force that has been building in you since the first time someone underestimated you, since the first time someone counted you out, since the first time someone celebrated too early. Their equation is missing the most important variable. You, not your circumstances, not your resources, not your situation. You, the actual you. The consciousness that exists beneath all the external noise. The spirit that has been through worse than this and came back stronger every single time. The force that treats obstacles as training weights, setbacks as tuition, defeats as doctorates in what not to do next time. They calculated everything except the only thing that actually matters. And that is why their celebration is so perfectly, beautifully, devastatingly premature. Let me paint you a picture of what is happening right now, in this exact moment, while they are still hanging up their victory banners and updating their social media and telling everyone who will listen about how they finally beat you. In the silence they created when they pushed you out, something is growing, something is strengthening, something is evolving at a rate they cannot comprehend because they think pressure destroys people. They do not understand that pressure is exactly what creates diamonds. That heat is what forges steel. That resistance is what builds muscle. Every door they closed concentrated your focus. You are no longer spreading your energy across 1,000 different possibilities. You know exactly where to aim now. Every bridge they burned eliminated your distractions. All those relationships that were draining you, requiring maintenance, demanding attention, gone. Every ally they took from you revealed dead weight you needed to release, but were too loyal to cut loose yourself. They did you a favor. Every weapon they used taught you defenses you did not know you needed to develop. They thought they were dismantling you. They were actually refining you. They thought they were ending your game. They were leveling you up for a game they do not even know exists yet. They thought they were writing your ending. They were actually forcing you into your transformation scene. That moment in every story where the hero has to lose everything to discover what they are really made of. And here is the part that is going to haunt them. You are not angry anymore. You were. Oh, you absolutely were. There were nights when the rage was so intense you could taste copper in your mouth. There were moments when you fantasized about immediate retaliation, about matching their energy, about showing them exactly what you are capable of when the leash comes off and the rules no longer apply. But that phase passed. And what replaced it is far more dangerous than anger could ever be. Clarity replaced it. Cold, crystalline, surgical clarity. The kind that does not waste a single calorie on emotion. The kind that sees the board from above, from angles they cannot even conceive of. The kind that tracks all the pieces simultaneously, calculating 17 moves ahead, while they are still celebrating move 2. Anger makes mistakes. Anger acts impulsively. Anger reveals your hand too early. But clarity makes moves. Precise, calculated, devastatingly effective moves. And you have stopped being angry. You have started being strategic. They have absolutely no idea what is coming. And here is the most beautiful part. They will not see it coming either, because you are not going to announce it. You are not going to threaten it. You are not going to give them any warning whatsoever. You are not going to post cryptic messages or drop hints or let them know you are working on something. You are just going to execute. Silently, methodically, relentlessly. One move at a time, one day at a time. One quiet, devastating decision at a time. And by the time they realize the game continued after their celebration, By the time they look up from their champagne and their selfies and their stories, they will already be in checkmate, not approaching checkmate, not almost in checkmate, already there, already done, already finished. Looking around at a board they stopped paying attention to, wondering how all their pieces disappeared while they were busy framing their victory photos for posterity. Let me talk about the nature of real victory, because they clearly do not understand it. Real victory does not need an audience. Real victory does not require validation from the same people who doubted you. Real victory is so complete, so total, so undeniable, that it speaks for itself without you having to say a single word. You do not have to convince anyone you won. You do not have to argue your case. You do not have to prove anything. The results are so obvious that even your enemies have to acknowledge them, even if only to themselves in the quiet moments when they are alone with the truth. They wanted a loud victory, a theatrical victory, a victory they could perform and broadcast and use for social validation, fulfilling the emptiness inside them that no external achievement can ever satisfy. You want something different. You want the kind of victory that changes your life so fundamentally that their opinion becomes irrelevant. The kind of victory that builds something so solid, so real, so substantial, that their attacks bounce off without leaving a mark. The kind of victory that creates a reality so removed from their sphere of influence that you forget they exist for months at a time. That is not revenge. That is transcendence. And it is so much more devastating than anything they imagined when they were planning your downfall. Here is what is going to happen in the coming months. And I want you to see it clearly so you recognize it when it starts unfolding. You are going to build in silence, day by day, brick by brick, decision by decision. Nothing flashy, nothing they can point to and attack, nothing that gives them ammunition for their narrative about your desperate comeback attempt. Just consistent, relentless, patient progress towards something they cannot even envision because they lack the vision, the discipline, the understanding required to see that far ahead. Meanwhile, they are going to plateau. The high of defeating you will fade. It always does. The celebration will end. The champagne will go flat. The congratulations will stop, and they will be left with themselves, with the same limitations that made them need to tear you down in the first place, with the same emptiness that made your light so offensive to them, with the same mediocrity that made your potential so threatening. And slowly, imperceptibly, week by week, the gap will grow. Not because you are trying to compete with them. You stopped competing with them the moment they showed you who they really are. No, the gap will grow because you are playing a completely different game now. A game that has nothing to do with them. A game that is entirely about becoming who you were always meant to become. Building what you were always meant to build. Creating what you were always meant to create. They will watch it happen. They will see the updates, the progress, the growth, and they will tell themselves it does not bother them. They will create narratives about why your success does not count, why your growth is not real, why your transformation is somehow fake or temporary or undeserved. But they will watch, and watching your ascension from the same place they were standing when they celebrated your defeat. That is a special kind of torture that you do not even have to inflict. They do it to themselves. Every notification, every update, every glimpse of your new reality reminds them that they celebrated too early, that they popped champagne at halftime, that they mistook a chapter break for the end of the book. There is a moment coming. I want you to visualize it now, because it is already real. It is already inevitable. It is already happening in a timeline you are collapsing toward with every decision you make, every action you take, every day you choose to keep moving forward instead of giving up. In this moment, you are standing somewhere elevated. Could be literal, could be figurative. Does not matter. You have built something they said was impossible. You have become someone they said you could never be. You have achieved things they were absolutely certain were beyond your reach. And in this moment, someone mentions them. Maybe someone asks how you feel about the people who celebrated your downfall. Maybe you see their name somewhere, on a screen, in a conversation. Maybe a memory surfaces unbidden, and here is what happens. You feel nothing, not satisfaction, not vindication, not even the sweet taste of proving them wrong. Nothing. Because they have become completely, totally, absolutely irrelevant. They are so far below your current reality that feeling anything about them would be like a mountain. Feeling something about a pebble that once rolled down its side thousands of years ago. That is checkmate. Not when they suffer, not when they apologize, not when they finally acknowledge their mistake. Checkmate is when you genuinely do not care anymore. When their opinion carries no weight, when their existence has no impact on your day, your mood, your decisions. When you have transcended the board they thought they dominated so completely that you cannot even see them from where you are standing. And they will know it. They will feel it. They will sense that somewhere along the way they stopped mattering to you, and there is nothing they can do to change that. No attack they can launch will bring you back down to their level. No provocation will make you engage. No strategy will make you care. They will be stuck playing a game against an opponent who left the table years ago, who is playing in entirely different leagues now, who has moved so far beyond their comprehension that they are functionally invisible to you. That is not victory. That is annihilation through indifference. That is winning so completely that your opponent ceases to exist in any meaningful sense. So here is what I need you to understand right now in this moment, wherever you are, whatever state you are in, however fresh the wounds from their celebration might be. This is all part of the game, their celebration. Your pain, this moment of darkness, this feeling of being knocked down, it is all part of the game, and the game is so much longer than they can possibly imagine. The game spans years, not weeks. The game measures success in transformations, not transactions. The game rewards patience over panic, strategy over impulse, silence over noise, substance over performance. You were built for this game. They were not. That is not arrogance. That is assessment based on observable behavior. They showed you exactly who they are when they celebrated too early. They revealed their inability to think long-term. They demonstrated their addiction to instant gratification. They proved that their minds cannot conceive of the kind of strategic thinking, the kind of patient execution, the kind of delayed gratification that you are capable of. They eliminated themselves from serious consideration as threats. All you have to do now is keep moving. Keep building, keep evolving, keep playing the game they do not know exists. And when the time is right, when the pieces are positioned perfectly, when the trap is so complete that resistance is mathematically impossible, you will not even need to announce checkmate. The board will say it for you. The results will speak so loudly that words become unnecessary. They celebrated your downfall too early. The real game is just beginning, and you are already winning in ways they cannot see, building victories they cannot imagine, positioning pieces on boards they do not know exist. Move in silence, build in darkness, rise when ready, transform completely. And when you do emerge, when you do step back into the light, let them see what pressure actually creates. Let them witness what happens when someone who refuses to break gets pushed to their absolute limit. Let them understand, finally too late to matter, that they were never your enemy. They were your training weights, and you just finished your workout, the celebration they are having right now. Let them enjoy it, savor it, post about it, frame it, put it on their walls, because it is the last one they are going to have for a very, very long time. And years from now, when they look back at that photo, at that moment, at that premature celebration, they will finally understand what you knew all along. The game had not even started.